Now, with that in mind, it's time to introduce our first guest. She's from Dublin. She's a wife, a mom, and a business owner. Not only has she achieved the state of clear, so have her whole family. Here to speak to you tonight about what going clear has meant to her, please welcome Siobhan. Hi, Siobhan.
Hi, dear.
How's it going?
Good.
Excellent. So it's good to speak with you.
Yeah, good to be here.
So tonight we're going to talk about going clear and so forth. So I think we should probably start with how you came across the subject of Dianetics.
Okay. About 30 years ago, a friend of mine introduced me to Dianetics.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Scientologist, and he bought me the book. And I didn't read it. I didn't read it at first. And he had said to me, you know, if ever you were upset or whatever, because he knew I was actually not doing very well,
right,
to let him know, and you know, he'd come and give me a handout, a dig out.
right.
So this particular night I was actually in very heavy grief, and I called him and I got my first Dianetics session from him.
Wow.
And the following day then, after the session, there was a huge change in how I felt. I was a lot calmer and, you know, doing a lot better just from that one session.
So that was just from doing the one
Just
session?
from the one. Like, I hadn't been doing well for a long time. I was failing, I was introverted, and I just couldn't figure out why.
Right.
The question was, why? Why am I like this? It doesn't add up, it doesn't make sense. And I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted. I had tried quite a lot of things, and it was really just from that session then that spurred me on to read a little bit. I didn't even read the whole book, but I read a bit after that, and I really saw what Dianetics did and what it was aiming for.
Fantastic, fantastic. So at what point did you kind of get to a point where you decided you wanted to do something about your situation, or you wanted to go clear, or what way did it roll out for you?
Well, I always wanted to do something about myself, but I could never actually find the correct thing that indicated, you know, like that. I knew I needed something practical, something for answers, because I knew I wasn't a stupid person. I just knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know what it was. But when I actually read some of the stuff in the book, it really indicated as to why I was having the problems, because here I was, intelligent enough, confident enough, and knowing that I was confident enough in certain things, but not really showing it.
Right.
And it really validated me when I read the book. Oh, I'm not that crazy, and there is a solution.
Wow.
And so I was actually, after reading the book, it just gave me an awful lot of hope, because I knew I wasn't a hopeless case then, you know?
Right. Wow. And so what prompted you, and how did you go about going clear then? What was the what kind of steps?
Basically then there are steps up to clear. I knew immediately I wanted to go clear. And for me, going clear was just to live a good life, being able to make decisions, being able to move forward and actually achieve what I wanted. But I took the steps that you do before going clear, all the different stages in Scientology that you do.
Right.
And what it does is, like, going clear is it's something that you reach for, but it's a stepping stone with rehabilitation of your abilities.
Right.
So, you know, one of the first steps is rehabilitation of your communication. Then you go on to problems. And what you're doing is you're getting your ducks in a row on these stepping stones to clear.
Wow.
And you're getting your ducks in a row on communication, you know, all the times you never communicated when you should have.
Yeah.
You know, the times you're afraid and you withheld, or maybe you over-communicated. All of that kind of gets you get to view it again and realign how you feel about communication. So you do that all the way up, communication. Then you have problems, you know. Of course, I had loads of problems that I wasn't even solving.
Right.
I didn't even know half of them, you know, where they were coming from. So it helps you get to the source of your problems, rehabilitate you on looking at them. And even looking at them can sometimes blow a problem away. So a lot of that started to happen in my life. Then the next step after that was upsets, you know. You're going around upset and you don't even know why you're upset.
Right.
You think it's blah, and then it's like, and you keep going on about that, and it doesn't change.
Right.
But on this step then, so you're just rehabilitating you all the time in relation to life and dealing with life. And by the time you get to the stage of achieving the state clear, that is the achievement, those rehabilitation of those things with you running them, you. So here you are as a clear, handling life instead of it handling you.
Perfect.
That's probably the best description I could give it.
Right, so it kind of leads on to the question of how life is for you now as a clear. How do you view life? You know, you've kind of described how you would handle these different things, but how is life for you now?
For me now, God, I mean, it's night and day, really. I mean, I was quite pathetic when I look back. Like, I was very griefy.
Right.
I was not moving forward. I wasn't getting the things that I wanted. I didn't have a family. I didn't have like my own family. I was kind of disconnected from my siblings and my mother and that, not wanting to, but found myself very disconnected. Whereas now I am more connected. I know what I want. There's just no comparison. I'm actually living. I'm alive. I'm feeling. And I'm feeling whether it's, you know, you can have this idea of happiness, but I also feel anger. I feel pain, because this universe deals you everything, absolutely everything. So it's not a state of perfection. It's a state of ability. And so, you know, every day deals you something. But it really depends on your ability to handle it. So I find that I'm much more able to handle my life instead of it just being thrown around, you know.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So obviously with you going clear, your whole family are in fact clear.
Yeah.
So how did that come about? Because obviously I assume they made their own decision on what they wanted to do and so forth, but how did it come about?
Yeah, totally their own decision. My husband, he went clear a little before I did. On his own determinism, because it was something he wanted. My children then, I just brought them up in it because I was in a better condition. I was able to kind of handle them better. And from that, I think they just saw that, God, Mom is not doing so bad, so, you know, maybe there's something in it. So from that, they actually reached to, you know, because they have their problems as well.
Of course.
I was clear, but it didn't mean that my family were going to be clear. So they had their problems. They encountered life, you know, school, learning, boyfriends, hobbies, failing, you know, as you do. And from that, then they went, okay, you know, I need to actually do something. And they did it.
And here you are. Fantastic. So how's family life now? Obviously with everyone clear in the family and so forth.
It can be fun. It can be challenging as well, because we're all quite determined, because it restores your own self-determinism. So we've got 4 very self-determined people living in the house. So it's fun. And yet we have to kind of make space for each other as well. So yeah, it's good.
Fantastic. And you've kind of even broadened it even further, because we mentioned at the start that you're a businesswoman, and your business partner is also clear. So how is that from a business dynamic?
I couldn't imagine it any other way. I mean, you know, business can be hard. There are challenging times. We work very well together. We have our moments where we don't work very well together, but we're rational enough to actually sit down then and handle things that come up. You know. And then also with our employees, you know, they're not clear. So we pave the way for them to have a kind of a smooth time with us and make it easier for them as much as we can, because we have a lot more understanding.
Fantastic. So you mentioned understanding, so you've got a more of an empathetic view of life and people around you, groups and that kind of thing. Would that be correct?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, how can you care for others? How can you have the empathy for others if you're in a bad state? You don't, because you're kind of a little bit pushed in on yourself. But when you actually come out, you know, get rid of that stuff, those aberrations and problems, then you can actually look out and see if you can be a source of inspiration or empathy or help for someone else. So, yeah, it makes a huge difference. And the greatest thing about it is that because you've handled quite a lot, the pleasure that you can actually get in just being a terminal for somebody that needs just an ear.
Right.
Someone to listen to even, you know. Right. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Excellent. So what would you recommend if we've got people watching tonight that don't know much about Dianetics? What would you recommend?
What would I recommend? Well, I'd recommend firstly is the book. Definitely. Just, you know, I don't think it's a very easy read. I'm going to say that. For me, I read everything before I read Dianetics. But if you really want the answer to what's going on with you, I mean, I just skimmed through it and went through and looked for, in different chapters, what it was that I was looking for. And I hit it. I found it. But afterwards, then I went back and read the book. But I would say read the book. Just read the book. Even if it's difficult, just read what you can out of it. Find what you can in the book that indicates, and then do something.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you for speaking with us tonight. It was an absolute pleasure having you. And we will definitely speak again in the future.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you, Siobhan.
Okay, thank you.
So there you have it. I mean, again, I think the advice is very, very simple. If one hasn't read the book, start by doing that. Get an understanding of what it says, how it works, how it can help you, and so forth. Because your life is under your control. It's up to you to create it as you want to create it. Okay, our next guest grew up in Cork boy. He studied petroleum engineering and then traveled the world, and then returned to Kerry, of all places. He's here to tell us how he found Dianetics and what going clear has meant to him. Please welcome Colm. How's it going, Colm?
Good, Ger.
So
I'm here in Dublin talking to a Kerry man. I see enough of them in Kerry.
So you started in Cork, went around the world and came back to Kerry.
Yeah, well, I'm still blowing there, though. I'm basically Cork.
Right, fair enough. So look, tell us, how did you find Dianetics? How did you come across the subject?
Well, you mentioned I was a petroleum engineer and like traveled the world a bit, but I had just started work, and I was working, and my first boss gave these courses, and I was his assistant.
Right.
So I was helping him with these courses, which were week-long courses on the software we were using for engineering, and so courses came up in Indonesia, and my boss hated Indonesia. So he decided I could be the course giver. And he felt guilty about this because he was sending me to a hellhole according to him. Right. Whereas for me, it was like, yes, I'm going to get a trip off to Indonesia, you know,
to travel.
See the world.
Right.
But I think as part of, he felt so guilty that he actually gave me a week in Perth as well. You know, nice place, I suppose, in his thinking, civilized. And it was, where I didn't have a lot to do. So I was in Perth, and I had only a small bit of work to do, and I was literally wandering the streets, amusing myself in between a couple of demos of software I had to do. And somebody stopped me and said, would I help him with a survey? So I said, fine, yeah, sure, no problem. And he asked me 3 questions, which, if I remember right, were if you could have anything in the world, what would you have? If you could do anything in the world, what would you do? And if you could be anything in the world, what would you be? And I think it was in that order. He asked them. But anyway, I thought it was all very interesting. And then he took me down and I did a personality test, which was 200 questions. And I filled this in and he came out with this graph. And like I had just come out of college. I was full of the joys of life. I had a good job. Everything was going thing. And I had this very nice graph, according to him.
Right.
You know, and he said, oh, you know, it's an amazing graph. I'd love to audit you. And I go, what? I had no idea what he was talking about, but it didn't make sense to me. It didn't ring right.
Right.
But anyway, we had a conversation, and out of that, we came up with the kind of agreement that we use a fraction of our potential. And I was going, sure.
Yeah.
Like, I would say I breezed through college. I mean, I did, you know, I wasn't maybe necessarily a brilliant student, or I didn't study that hard maybe, but I had a good time, and I did well in my exams. So like, and then I was saying, but I'm sure I'm using a fraction of my potential, and I'm sure I could have applied myself better, and I'm sure, you know, so I'm saying, and then, you know, what are all these people who are struggling, you know, even just to pass an exam? So I felt, yeah, definitely we use a fraction of our potential. And he says, well, this book will show you. And I said, okay, it kind of mentioned mental health, and I was a bit skeptical.
Yeah.
Because my experience of, I don't know, I didn't have a lot of reality for the jargon of, you know, the terminology and psychology and that kind of stuff. Didn't have a lot of, you know, it was it wasn't engineering to me.
Right.
But anyway, he said, this book will show you. And I said, well, okay, book. Yeah, okay, I'll buy your book.
Right.
So I bought the book.
Wow. Wow.
And that was the start. And then actually I took it home that night, and I was, as I say, I was going traveling and such, and I was working. But I read 4 pages, and I was surprised because it made sense to me. It was logical. The 4 pages I read, and it was there saying, what should a science of mind be composed of?
Yeah.
And it listed out that it should do this, and it should do this, and it shouldn't have to assume things that didn't exist, and it, to bring it, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So this makes sense. It reads well.
Right.
So I put it in my bag and kept it.
So you didn't run to the first organization.
I did not know.
And kind of go, I know what I'm doing with my life. It's under control.
No, I went. I went straight. I went to Singapore after that, and then on to Indonesia, and I went back to England where I was working at the time, and then I said time for a change, and I ended up moving to Canada, and I worked there for a couple of years. And I was having a great time there. And then after a few years there, I think I found I was doing the same things. I was having a great time. I'd made loads of new friends, but I found I was doing the same things. And I said, I think it's time for a change. There's something. Right. It's time to move on. I've learned a lot now. I want to move on and do something new. And also I was running races at the time. I was orienteering, and I was running on the Irish team. And there was some World Cup races I wanted to run in Europe. And I only had 2 weeks holidays or 3 weeks holidays in Canada, and I just couldn't do all these things. So I said, I'm quitting. Right. I'm taking 6 months off. I'm going to go run my races. I'm going to have some fun, and I'm going to go up to the Yukon because I have friends up there, and I've got friends in Vancouver. I'm going to travel around a bit. I had a girlfriend in Austria, So fine, I was going to do all that. But while I was doing it, I said, okay, I've got this time off, and I'm going to have fun, but I should also look to see if there's anything else out there to expand my horizons. Right. And I said, where's that book? I'll read that book. I mean, it had stuck in my, this is 3 years later. Wow. So it had stuck in my mind that there was something, could be something there. Yeah. So I read the book, and then that's the start of it.
Wow, wow. So then on reading the book, what did it do for you? Did it stop you from wandering around the world, or did it kind of go, okay, now I have something that I want to do that I need to focus on?
No, it didn't. It certainly didn't.
It wasn't there yet.
It certainly didn't stop me from wandering around the world, but it did said, "Oh, this is it. I mean, here's something different." Yeah. And I was like, in fact, my initial question when I went into an organization after that was, "Why hasn't this changed the world?" And the guy gave me a very good answer. He said, "Good question." And that was my feeling. Why hasn't it changed the world? I mean, we have here an understanding of the mind, which I hadn't seen anywhere else, and I don't believe exists in other disciplines that I know of. And, even just reading the book gave me a better understanding of the mind. And you can see, well, it's, when things go wrong, why they can go wrong. Yeah. And even just that bit of data, I mean, when you have the tools of a trade, when you have the understanding, like when you have the theory in your engineering, you can then apply it. When you understand the mind better, you can then be much more at cause over what goes wrong with it when it does go wrong. Right. And you can, and it's easy to see in other people. It's maybe not so easy to see in yourself, but certainly you see it and you have a better understanding. Nice. And I definitely wanted to pursue it, find out more, get some reality on how all this worked, and go clear.
Fantastic, fantastic. So let's fast forward the traveling around the world bit to what happened once you reached that goal of going clear.
Well, I mean, clear for me was an interesting thing because the personality is inherent, right? So I didn't feel like a changed person so much. It was just that there was these barriers to me full-time enjoying myself and full-time being at my best, because when a lot of the time, most of us are, well, not maybe, some of us certainly, but a lot of people, some of the time, everyone experiences these moments when they're happy, when they're doing things and things are going well. Yeah. And this is when the reactive mind isn't bothering you. Yeah. And then for some reason, I don't know, you go out and you get drunk and you find somebody crying in the corner, somebody else fighting in that corner, and there's the reactive mind kicking in. And there's things go wrong, and people get sick, and things like this. So it just removed these barriers. And I think, if I were to pick out specifics, like one of the things that I had, and as a runner, it was very, if somebody wanted to run I ran World Championships orienteering for Ireland, and I wasn't, we're not the top in orienteering by any means, but still it was something that I liked to do.
Yeah.
And I was asthmatic. So in the book, it talked about asthma and how you can handle this with Dianetics. And I thought, okay. And I did. I handled it. Now, it's not, to say it's a cure. No, it's not a cure, but it's gone. I used to use inhalers, and I used to need to use inhalers, and I don't. And I haven't for 10, 15 years. Wow. So, and then it just makes you more yourself, and things don't affect me, they don't knock me down, or if they do, I come back up pretty quick,
So Colm is more Colm.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, it is, and that's what I loved about it, was it wasn't something additive. It wasn't something where you say, oh, no, to be better, you must do this, and you must do that, and you must do other things. No, you take away barriers that you self-impose unwittingly, and you get rid of those so that you are then free to be more yourself. And even friends of mine said it to me, and I said, oh, I've known you for years, and you're still the same person. You're still the same guy that I run with, had fun with, So and I don't give him any, negativity about it. So he says, fine, great,
Yeah. Nice. So obviously, we have some people who maybe have bought the book, I don't know. So what would you advise? Obviously not run around the world for 3 years, but maybe there's other things that you might want to give advice on.
I mean, the beauty of it at the moment is you have places like this, you have organizations like this where you can go in and know you're getting really good service and everything is good and all the blips have been ironed out over the years. So it's quick. It's really quick nowadays compared to, you're a bit of a pioneer. It's a long time ago since I started, right? We're going back 30 years plus, right? So it's fast. But what I would say is read the book. That's the first step, because that gives you an idea of what you can be, and it gives you, what you're heading for. And just in itself, without doing any more, it puts you in a better position. Excellent. So I would say read the book. Excellent. And get on with it.
Perfect. Well, thank you for speaking with us tonight.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
So back to the kingdom with you.
All right, bye.
Good. Talk to you later.
Cheers.
Well, there you go. Again, the advice is very, very similar. It's like, get the book, read the book, use the book, and so forth. It all kind of starts from there. That's the most basic thing that you can do. And then obviously, once you know that, and it's something that's real to you, it's something that you see you doing that's going to help you achieve what it is that you want. That, I think, is the key aspect to it. Okay, so our final guest is Polish, who has lived in Ireland for so long, she considers herself half Irish. She is a full-time public relations volunteer for the church. She is a social activist for the homeless. She works with local artists putting on community events. Please welcome Asha. Hi, Asha.
Hi, Joe.
How's it going?
What an introduction. Thank you.
Excellent. I knew you'd like that.
Yeah.
All right. So your story starts in a different country. So it's like,
indeed.
Let's talk a little bit about what it was like for you before you came across Dianetics and, back in Poland and so forth.
Sure. Well, funny thing is, for my work and just through my life, I've been meeting a lot of people and socializing, and, I came across something really interesting recently, that when people look at me, they started asking me, how do you know what pain is? And, me knowing my story, knowing my life, obviously that was a very shocking question to receive. But, somehow that came across like, how do you know pain? Well, I do. And, and I think there isn't a human being on this planet that doesn't. And to give you a little bit of backstory of my life is I grew up in Poland during communism. And, yourself, during times when a political regime is like that, it's not an easy time to grow up. And the environment is very challenging from the very beginning. So you've got that factor in your life that you have to deal with, that someone else wouldn't have to deal with, for example, growing up somewhere else. But it's fine. you can find your way around it, which I will tell you in a second. But so that was one factor. And, you know, I grew up in a family of very lovely people, and we have a very good relationship right now. But they had their own struggles. You know, my dad was an alcoholic. And when I was growing up, it was something that you had to deal with. So me and my mother, we were obviously helping him and taking care of him. But it was a point of my life where it was just challenging again, you know. So you go into the world with an amount of enthusiasm and life energy and, you know, that kind of like sparkle in your eye. And it's like, hey, I can take over the world, you know, I'm half Irish, half Polish, just kidding, you know, hey. And then as you continue through the life and you get all these challenges back at you, it starts to diminish. And that sparkle in your eyes becomes more like a doubt or lack of self-confidence, or you're questioning if what you're doing is the right thing for you, you know. And I always wanted to be an artist, and I started very early. When I was 6 years old, I started dancing and, you know, singing and playing piano and all of those things. So I always had big dreams. It was like, you know, yes, I came in this environment and this is what I'm currently facing, but I always wanted to go farther. I wanted to do more. I wanted to, you know, really experience life in the glories, and, you know, deal with whatever comes my way in order to do that, and so on. And that was very difficult to do when you were faced with what you were faced with. So very quickly I had to find a way of dealing with life that was allowing me, you know, to take all of that life energy that I had at the very beginning that started to go fast on a minus, you know. It was diminishing as I was going through life. So I started having problems with self-confidence. I was questioning myself. As an artist, you get a lot of invalidation. You get a lot of people telling you what to do, what not to do, how you are, and it's just beyond, you know, it can really mess up with your head. So, you know, if you have it over a day, then that's fine. But if you have it over 10 years or 15 years of your life, you start to really question, and you really start to look inward as opposed to looking outward. And, you know, you put on a mask, which is a very easy thing to do. You know, you just smile and you show other people that everything is grand. But inside, you know that you're not doing well. And, you know, at the end of the day, you're with yourself in the room and you know that something is going on. So I started questioning, you know, different things that, the question I was trying to answer was, is there a solution to replenishing your own self, you know, to finding that life energy again, to getting rid of all this baggage from your mind that was stopping you, because all of a sudden it started stopping me. It wasn't as easy to put on that mask anymore. It was like, you know, your bucket was filling up with all this crap from life that, you know, was collecting up, and all of a sudden it started spilling over the brinks, and, you know, it wasn't that easy anymore. So I was like, there must be a way to, like, you know, just lift the carpet and then go start sweeping, you know, and actually deal with these issues or deal with those problems instead of just stacking them all up, because then when I'm 50 or 60 or whatever, you know, it's not gonna get any easier. So I started reading books. I, you know, started looking into different religions. I started, you know, reading Freud. I was studying psychology, all sorts of things. But, you know, and I also did practical things that I thought were going to help me. I've done a little bit of counseling, I've done psychology and so on. And for me, I was not able to find a closure in those things. You know, I wanted something that when you have a conversation about, or when you're dealing with, or when you're addressing as an issue, you handle it fully and it's gone from your life, basically. You know, it kind of goes into the past in a way that you remember it, but it doesn't have any influence over you. So I was not able to find that anywhere. And, you know, so I kept searching and so forth. And the funny thing is that when I did Dianetics, I had no idea what it was, how it was, where it came from, nothing. You know, I just literally tried because someone recommended that it might be good to, you know, do, and it might help me find what I'm looking for. And that's exactly what I found. I found the closure, you know, and I found the closure in so many things in my life that, and it's not, you know, like, I don't want to make it glorified like it's some kind of a miracle that you sit down for an hour, you have a conversation, and all your problems of your life are gone, because that's not the case. You deal with smaller parts of your life. You deal with, you know, everyday issues that you might have. The things that you only know about yourself. You might not know them about me. You might look at me and ask me, do you know any pain? At which case, you know, I will tell you my story if you're interested. But, you know, there are things that are bothering you, and you know in front of you that this is actually a problem for you, and it's stopping you from whatever you're trying to do. So I started dealing with those things on a little gradient, one by one, and then just, you know, it started gaining. And for me, I started breathing again. inside. You know,
Wow.
it wasn't like I had to put this show on anymore, because, you know, when you're in arts and when you are in front of cameras, when you're dealing with different things like that, you don't have time to be a broken piece.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, there's no space for this if you want to make it or whatever. So you put on the hard face and you keep going, and it does not matter what goes inside, you know.
Wow.
So it was really nice to not have to do it, not put that effort into, you know, being happy, just being happy. You know, it's actually quite simple. It's just you are happy,
Yeah.
which is something that I didn't know before, something that, you know, I had to definitely kind of make myself be or feel, or, you know, there was much more to that before.
Wow.
So that's how it helped me, you know. And, you know, I keep saying this, that the value of it, especially for artists, it's absolutely incredible, because the amount of life you're dealing with, the amount of people you're dealing with, the amount of evaluation you're dealing with, invalidation you're dealing with, it's not like you're sitting somewhere in a corner hiding from the world. You're right there. You're creating, you're putting your soul out there, and you're living a fast life. And there must be a way of, you know, you're accumulating all that crap as you're coming along.
Yeah.
There must be a way to deal with that.
Wow.
And that's where I found it for myself.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So obviously, you know, let's roll forward to actually having a state, you know, reach the state of clear. So what was that like? You know, now that you've kind of been able to deal with some of that baggage and put the past into perspective and so forth, what was life for Asha like now?
Awesome. Well, look, I'm a human being and I'm a woman, so I'm, you know, just gonna leave it there. But anyway, I do get emotional, and I can be angry, and I can be happy, and I can be upset, and, you know, I can express all sorts of emotions, and I'm very, you see what you get. So, you know, I can be angry, I can have a fight, all of those things still stand. But it's a little bit different to have a correct emotional response to a situation. Like, you know, you go to someone's funeral and they were close to you and you're heartbroken and you're crying. Absolutely, 100%. Every single one of us would react that way, you see. But you don't have attached to it anything from the past that would be making this experience unbearable, you know, like one that you cannot go through and you cannot pass through. And it's going to hold you in that place for, you know, many, many years forward, even without you realizing or know it. But sometimes that's how your mind works. It just stops you right there. And you just accumulate it with all of this extra baggage of extra emotions that you wouldn't have otherwise, you see. So the recovery goes slower. You coming back from failures comes slower. Whereas if you're clear, it's kind of, it's, you know, I would compare it like being a child again, you know. Child is very flexible in their responses to the world. You know, they can get happy, they can get sad, they can be running around, they can be sitting still, they can be into something, they can be amazed by something, and they have all these beautiful emotions that you like look at children and you're like, wow, I was like this one day, right? So a lot of that comes back with the state of clear, because you know, you have an upset, you go through it, you move through it, there's nothing attached to it. It's just right now, in now, that you're upset. And because there's no strings attached to your past or other things that you don't even remember about, and unconsciously. So it's not like you're going to remember, this happens under your consciousness. You're just able to deal with that situation, put it in the past, move on, that's it. And then, you know, in the next 2 hours, you're happy about something. Which is really nice to have that freedom, especially when you're living a, you know, fast life. And also creatively, you know, for me, creativity is 1,000,000% different. You don't question it as much. I mean, obviously we all have our insecurities still and so on, and, you know, you create a song or you put yourself out there, and first question you ask yourself, what are others gonna think about it, you know? And you're like, oh my God, with shaking hands, you know. But that's a natural response, right? Whereas, but you will do it, whereas before you could invalidate it or yourself to such a point that you wouldn't even have the courage to do that, you know. So life after being clear to me is like being a child again. Or finding those child abilities within yourself and able to, you know, live your life with a passion again, like a child would, and excitement and interest. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to get me to stop because I'm so passionate about it, and I'm so passionate about people, and it's just like, you know, I go on a roll. So yeah, but it's way better.
Good. So how do you take that into what you do? So obviously you're dealing with public relations, you know, social activists, you're helping a lot of people with problems and so forth. So how do you take that passion and that drive into what you do?
It's a very good question. You know, someone said to me one time that they used to help a lot. And then they asked me, how do you keep going still? And I look at them, I'm like, what do you mean still? Well, how do you find it in yourself that, you know, after helping all these people and going through all those issues, because, you know, when you're helping others, it's not the easiest job. You go into their lives, you're hands-on, you're involved, you know. And this person was basically saying, you know, how do you recharge yourself to be able to keep going and not fall apart?
Right.
And I never thought about it before. I was like, that's a valid question. You have to have a technology. We are living, you know, in 2021, and you have to have a technology to replenish your mind or deal with your mind in a way that whatever happens doesn't affect you anymore. It's like, you know, we're moving forward with technology. We're moving forward with research. There's so many things that are changing in this world. And we can catch up with it spiritually and mentally as well. So then there's something workable when you're going at such a fast speed. It's like driving a Ferrari. You better have your service in place, you know, because when you're driving in a Ferrari, there's no time or place for mistakes, you know what I mean? So it helps me enormously in a way that I deal with a lot. I help people, I get into their lives, you know, I take on a lot of challenges, and I can, because then when I have my time, I'm able to just basically restart. Right. Which is something I couldn't do before. Right. You know, it was just building up and going in the wrong direction, and you couldn't stop it. Where you now, okay, it's going a little bit worse, restart. You know what I mean? Yeah. Emotionally, spiritually, regain your energy, regain your power, not just, you know, try to like, you know, now I'm happy, you know, but actually, so it just comes out of you again, and it's easier to do it, and it's easier to recharge, you know. Wow. And probably this is the only reason why I still keep going, because sometimes when I think about my week or my day, I'm like, I can't believe I did all of those things in that time, you know, and I love it, and I would never want to stop, but this allows me to help others. It allows me to put my attention into other problems around me, within the community, within individual lives. Otherwise, if I was completely thinking about myself, trying to work out myself, introverted into what I'm doing, or just too broken to keep going, then I would be absolutely useless to everybody. So that's how it's helping me. I think. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it certainly did.
Yeah, okay.
So again, I kind of ask you the same question as I've asked everyone else.
Yeah.
Is there any advice you would give to somebody who's kind of coming across the subject for the first time? It doesn't even have to be for the first time, you know, because obviously going clear is a decision. Learning about what it is reading the book and so forth. Is there anything you would like to say to anybody about that?
It takes courage.
Right.
It takes courage, and I respect everybody and anybody who actually has the courage to look into your own self, confront the things you don't want to confront the things that you're lying to yourself about. Oh no, sure, I'm grand. You know, I'm just gonna change it to Netflix, and you know. But then at the end of the day, you're the one who is looking in the mirror, and you know what you're having issues with. It's not about me. You know, it's about you. It's like, what do I not like in myself at the end of the day? What do I want to improve? It's very personal. It's very for yourself, you know, or what things are ruining my relationship with others, or what things are causing this, or what things are causing that. And, you know, how can I go around this, right? So what I would say to you, first of all, be honest with yourself and actually have the courage to be like, yeah, those things are not good. This is not going well. I need to do something about it. And then pick up the carpet and start cleaning.
Wow.
You know, one by one, just start cleaning. It's like, take something you can confront and deal with it. Take something else that you can confront and deal with it, but do something. You know, it's just like, yes, those, you know, positive attitudes and the way, you know, to stay positive and think good about the world and all of that, that has influence, of course. You know, it's a power of the mind. But it's sometimes really hard to do. You know, it's like when you feel like crying or you're really broken inside and you're sitting there going, I'm gonna smile. It's hard. Yeah. You don't need to do that. Just deal with the issue. Deal with the thing you're feeling, the way you're feeling. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be broken. It's okay to feel alone. It's okay to have all sorts of different thoughts. It's okay. Right. But then the second step is acknowledge that, accept it, but then deal with it. Do something with it. You know, deal with one issue, see how that goes. Try it for yourself. You know, I could not tell anybody to do anything, and neither can you. Of course. But, you know, if you have enough courage and understanding, then you can, you know, explore it for yourself. And that's what I did. I was like, okay, well, let's see if this works. Let's see if that's actually true. And, you know, I'm a skeptic. I'm Polish. I grew up in communism. Right. So, you know what I mean? We don't believe many things that we are told. Yeah. You know, but then I was like, okay, well, doesn't matter who says what. Just check it out for yourself. And I'm really glad I did, you know. So that's what I would tell someone. I would just say, check it out for yourself. If it works for you, great. Have courage. Start cleaning up your mess. You will be better at the end of it.
Wow.
You truly will be. Even
Fantastic.
that might not be the most comfortable thing at the beginning, you'll be grand.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us
Very
tonight.
welcome.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Excellent. So there you have it. Get a big Hoover because you're going to be cleaning up the mess. No, seriously, really, that's what it comes down to in life. It's a case of confronting what it is that you want to change and the fact that you can change it, because it comes down to you. So I think the advice you got was absolutely fantastic. Now it's up to you to use it. Okay, so a huge, huge thank you to all our guests this evening. It was such a pleasure hearing their stories and how Dianetics changed not only their lives, but those of family and friends. Well, how would you like to change your life so you could be just as happy? The good news is you can start right here and now. If you don't have a copy of Dianetics, get one now. Simply click the link in the chat and order online. For those who have joined tonight, there is a special offer until midnight. So you should definitely take advantage of that. If you're already studying Dianetics, then it's time to schedule your personal consultation. Find out your next step to go clear. Come and experience for yourself all you have heard tonight. And as you have seen, the gains that can be achieved are incredible. All you need to do is send a message to one of our hosts. The chat will remain open at the end to answer all your questions. And if you're watching this from Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, please use the contact email address and phone number below. That's it for tonight. Let me leave you with this message from Mr. L. Ron Hubbard, taken from his book, Dianetics. You are beginning an adventure. Treat it as an adventure, and may you never be the same again. L. Ron